Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Vegan Business Tribe podcast with myself, David Pennell, the founder of Vegan Business Tribe. And I'm broadcasting to you around the world on Spotify, on Apple, or wherever you get your pods, but also now in glorious video on YouTube as well. And if you have a vegan business, or you're just thinking about starting one, then Vegan Business Tribe is here to support you and to inspire you, not just to build a vegan business, but to build a successful vegan business. And today we're having a bit of a different discussion, and it's still an important topic that will have an impact on your business, but it goes beyond just that business angle, because I wanted to explore something that was highlighted by a new research paper released by the Vegan Society into masculinity and veganism. Because we know that women are far more likely to go vegan than men. And this has been the case for a long time. Some studies have even suggested that as high as 80% of all the vegans in the USA are female. And if you spend any time in vegan Facebook groups, you will see regular posts from women complaining that their male partners won't go vegan, or grumbling about the lack of vegan men on dating sites. And this is really important to know if you are a vegan business, because if you're selling to a vegan audience, then you have to be aware that that audience, it is going to be largely female. And when I sit down and help our Vegan Business Tribe members with their customer profiling, usually the first thing that they tell me about their audience and the people that they sell to is that they're often largely female. But why is this? Why has veganism been overwhelmingly a female movement? And why are there so many social barriers and stigmas stopping more men from going vegan? Well, to answer that, I could not think of anyone better than our Vegan Business Tribe members, Steve and Mel from Vegan Muscle Gymwear. And if you haven't yet come across Steve and Mel and Vegan Muscle, then they are one of my top tips for someone who's really going to break into the big time on the vegan scene next year. Because alongside their gymwear brand, Vegan Muscle, they've also got their own YouTube channel, Vegan Muscle Outreach. And that's where they go onto the street and they directly engage people in conversations about veganism. And if you're watching the video version of this podcast, then you'll see when I bring Steve on in just a moment, he's huge. He has muscles. Well, I didn't even know you could grow them. So no one's ever going to tell Steve that he's not getting enough protein on a vegan diet. But I thought that Steve and Mel, they would be really great people to talk about this Vegan Society research paper and the reasons why more men don't go vegan and what we as businesses can do about that. And as a vegan business, you do have a massive part to play in this. The images that we use in our marketing, which testimonials we use, and just that better understanding of why a lot of men have barriers to engaging with us as vegan businesses and what we're going to do to overcome that. So just before we start this session, I mentioned that Steve and Mel, they are Vegan Business Tribe members. And you, yes, you can join us too if you're not a member already. It's only £18.99 a month to be part of Vegan Business Tribe. And not only do you get so much great value from all the member-only content, the courses, and the direct support that you get access to, we are also funded by our membership. So if you enjoy this podcast and all the content that we put out, please do consider going and signing up with us too on veganbusinesstribe.com, where you will find the most amazing community of vegan business owners who are on the same mission as you are. Okay, so let's dive in to find out, why don't more men go vegan? And what can we do as vegan businesses to change that? I am joined by two co-hosts in this podcast. So I've got here with me Mel and Steve, who you might know better as Vegan Muscle. And I could not think of anyone better to join me on this discussion about masculinity and veganism. So can I start out by asking, when you're out there doing your street activism, or when you're wearing your Vegan Muscle gym wear down the gym, does this conversation ever come up about masculinity and veganism? And that's either coming up, positively or negatively.
Yeah, loads, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it comes up in like a roundabout way. So it comes up with the first thing being, where do you get your protein from? And I think that's what the men are trying to kind of get in there, isn't there, with their masculinity. They're worried about muscles. So I'll let you explain that one.
Yeah, for me, it always an analogy would be if you was to throw water on a circuit board. That's what I can envision their brain doing at the point where they see somebody that doesn't fit perhaps a stereotype that they may perceive a vegan to be. And it's a really good way of positively showing, you can be vegan, you can be masculine, you can be a bodybuilder, you can be a triathlete, a marathon runner. It doesn't hold you back. And I think typically my experience is that men are fearful of losing what they perceive as being masculine, which we've been conditioned to believe comes by eating animals and things like that. So when they see someone that doesn't fit that mold, it's the water on the circuit board moment, and it comes up in that way. So I would say it comes up in a positive way more than a negative, because I would take that as a positive.
Yes, yeah. And I would also say that the occasional time it comes up in a negative is usually somebody walking past going, me, and then they run away, which I don't think is very masculine to do anyway. But they never seem to want to chat. But the ones who do always are like, wow, and they can't help but see, like, if they see you in the gym, they can't help but go, where do you get your protein?
Yeah.
But I guess in a way, I mean, that's why you started this brand, so that you could start those conversations when people see things like that. But just to pick up on that point specifically, Mel, because, from your side of view, you obviously wear your gym wear also, when you're out and about. So do you find that you have those same sort of comments that Steve might get?
To be honest, I get the protein one more than Steve. No one, so if we're doing outreach on the streets, people will kind of look at Steve and be like, yeah, but what about, and then they move on. Whereas to me, they'll ask that question. And then, because Steve's always with me, I'm like, yeah, but look at him. Like, where do you think he gets his protein? It's really handy. So I get different questions. And in the gym, I just kind of support the conversation when they're talking to you, because you're obviously the one with the big muscles. I got some, I'll have you know. Yeah, but we always then go into the ethics of veganism over where you get your protein from, because that's a how problem. So
I have to admit, I'm still amazed at people asking that question.
Yeah.
The fact that they will walk up to people in the gym, and still have that kind of protein conversation. I think that maybe, ties into a little bit about what we're talking about today, because we are talking today on the back of the research briefing paper, and that was recently released by the Vegan Society. And we know from other studies that women are far more likely to go vegan than men. And in fact, in one study, I think it was in the US, back in 2020, it suggested that as high as 80% of all the vegans in America were female. And so from a business point of view, that means if you're selling to vegans, then you're far more likely to be selling to that female audience. So is that what you're seeing too with your clothing sales? And are you seeing an equal divide between the demand for men's and women's gym wear?
So I would actually say for us, I think it's more predominantly men. For us, and also on our activism as well, on YouTube, on our channel, you can have the analytics of who's watching your channel. The majority of people is men, So we're actually finding the opposite, which I find we didn't really expect that.
Yeah.
But I wonder it's because like our slogan is all about being strong, protecting the innocent. So we're trying to capture the guys in and like fill them with confidence that, no, we got this. You're strong as a vegan. You can get muscles, and yeah, your heart is your strongest.
I think the whole thing, like you picked up earlier, the whole thing of vegan muscle is to break the norm, is to break the stereotypes, is to go into an environment that was typically non-vegan, and to prove to them that veganism is there and you can have all these traits as a vegan. So I think our goal from the off was to actually break them norms. So perhaps our analytics of the guys are coming and watching and buying is proof that actually with the message being clear and put across in a certain way, guys are still susceptible to change when targeted correctly, perhaps.
Yeah, it was our target, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fascinated by those statistics, and we could go into is vegan muscle a brand that's aimed at men more than women or anything like that. But what I think would be useful to do is I'm going to keep jumping back to this research paper and bring up some of their key findings as well, and kind of just test those out against you, because this is absolutely fascinating. So when we jump back to this research paper, one of the key barriers that they identified to men going vegan is that expectation of social stigma and just ridicule as well from family and friends. And I think it's that expectation that they're going to find this ridicule rather than that actually being the reality. So I think it's more about the stigma that's been created by people like Piers Morgan and Jeremy Clarkson, even our own government when they attacked the tofu eating wokerati. I mean, what was all that about? And so do you find that there is this difference between maybe the comments that you get when you're engaging people online, when those people are maybe a little bit one step removed and they do try to ridicule veganism? So do you see there's a difference between that and maybe the conversations you get when you're talking to real people, where they're maybe less likely to talk to that like that when they're talking face to face?
Massively. I think it's so much easier to say things behind a screen because that person is like protected almost by the screen. But when you're in public with people, and especially filming, you find you get more of a genuine question and answer situation. Whereas online, you do tend to get the Piers Morgan quotas and things, don't you? And
yeah, I'll also add to that though. I found this quite interesting. I had this thought about 2 weeks ago. Definitely, I agree with what Mel's saying, but I also think that there is a place for guys when they see and hear the message of veganism in the comfort of their own home. For example, if I'm on the street and a guy comes up to me and I have slaughterhouse footage and I'm questioning him, sometimes that bravado may go up and the barriers go up because he's in public and he has to perform in a certain way. I really think there's a place that when men are in their home, when they can actually let that wall down, let that bravado down and be more susceptible and open, perhaps with their feelings. Because to be honest, I'll be completely honest with me, when we went vegan, I saw the dairy industry. My first emotion, I cried for about 35 to 40 minutes. I was sat on the sofa behind me. I put my head in my hands and I cried my eyes out, and that was my emotion coming out. If I'd have seen that in public, would I have reacted the same? Probably not. Maybe so. I don't know. But I think that there's definitely pros and cons, and there's differences between online. I think trolls may be braver online than what they are in public, but I think men or people who are more open to the message may also receive it in a different way, in an environment where they haven't got to have that bravado. I think the bravado does create a barrier between the message and the emotion.
So do you, just tying into that performative idea that you just said there, so do you think that is a real issue? So if you're out on the streets and there's a guy with a group of mates, does he engage differently with you than maybe if he's on his own or maybe with a female partner?
Yes.
100%.
And we actually try and get the mates to kind of separate from him if we're trying to have a conversation, because we know that is like a peer pressure thing to
you go in and try and divide them up. Yeah.
And also there's typically, so for example, a demographic that I like to outreach to is maybe young guys between 16 and 19 in a group that have that sort of, they're in that environment. And I quite like that because you will always find if a group of 5 upwards, there will be one. There will be one person, and they will be in the background, and their cheeks go a little bit flush, and they're a little bit more quiet, and they may just step forward and say, guys, like, actually, this is a serious message. And you can pick them out, and if you can hold that environment, hold that room comfortably and competently, you can then use the empathy that's been displayed by the one person in the peer group to then spread the message to the others. And sometimes if you can crack it, you can turn that whole group around to actually saying, like, yeah, you know what, like, we're a bit trolly. I get your message. I see what you're doing. So there is that demographic as well. And I find that the people who are the most resistant and triggered and are actually very close to seeing and making a change, because their emotions are coming out a lot more than the person who just goes, I don't really care, mate.
Yeah, that's amazing as well. And again, we're going back to this idea of the expectation of the stigma rather than the stigma itself. And that's just a really interesting thing to talk about. If you are looking to get your business in the news or on the radio or interviewed on TV, then no one's going to get your company noticed like Karen Ridgers and her team at Mad Promotions. And Karen, she's been at the forefront of the vegan media scene for the last 20 years. And Mad Promotions, they're also our media partners at Vegan Business Tribe. So if you've read about us in plant-based news or in Vegeconomist, then that's probably because Karen got that story there. So if you are an ethical company or entrepreneur that wants more media coverage, and if you're a company that is looking to make a difference, then that's literally what Mad Promotions stands for. Karen, she's worked with Veganuary, VegFest, and all the other big names. So go find out more at mad-promotions.com. Did you know that in the UK alone, there is currently around £3 trillion invested in pensions? And much of that money, it's helping to fund harmful industries like tobacco, fossil fuels, gambling, and animal agriculture. So if instead you want to put your money where your heart is, then Jay Street is the founder of Mindful Wealth, our UK-based independent and vegan financial advisor here at Vegan Business Tribe. And because they are truly independent, they're not restricted to any specific investment range, so they can find the best option that works for you both financially and ethically. Although do note that the value of your investments, it can go down as well as up. But you don't need to have a lot of money invested to make a difference. If you want to talk about your financial planning, whether you're just starting your journey or you need a little guidance on how to create and maintain good habits, then book a free discovery call with Jay by heading to mindfulwealth.uk. Just jumping back to this report, though. So another finding from the Vegan Society's briefing was about this issue that there's so much misinformation put out about the vegan diet. And we've seen huge, well-funded research, being regulated, saying things like consuming soy will give men breasts because it's full of female hormones, only then to be completely debunked a few weeks later when the scientists point out that plant hormones, have zero effect on people. So we know that if you follow the funding back, it's going to go to the lobby groups and the industry groups that promote meat and dairy. But it's already out there by that point. The headlines have already gone around the world. So what's your response to that? Not just as maybe Mel and Steve personally, but as a vegan business too. When somebody tells you that soy is going to give you boobs or that, you can't actually perform well on a plant-based diet, do you try and counter those arguments? Are people actually going to listen to you, if you're trying to publicly debunk it? Are they going to listen to you as a brand that way?
Yeah, I think they do. I think the trouble is it seems to be one of these things in life. You can put 10 peer-reviewed studies in front of someone and they listen to Piers Morgan. Yeah. And you're like, but I've got 10 peer-reviewed scientific papers with you can do it, and they listen to Piers Morgan. But I think that coming from that brand perspective, you can almost debunk it by what your brand displays in itself. For example, if it's Vegan Muscle, we've got maybe 7 to 8 bodybuilders that I know of already that have got our stuff and they're training in our stuff. So the fact that there's a study that says, eating soy will give you feminine hormones and you won't be able to grow muscle. Well, here's visual proof that these 8 guys, one of them's competing in Mr. Olympia, the others are high-end performing athletes. You can just take a look at their body,
that does the talking a lot of the time.
You just let that do the talking. So that's why it's really important, I think, to display vegan messages where you are and wherever you are, because people are always looking and they are always watching, and people take in information. One of my top things that I've always taken away from one of the VBT's teachings was 20 different ways, 20 different times. And that's a really impactful thing, and seeing a bodybuilder wearing a vegan message may just be that 20th time that person goes, maybe that study wasn't right, maybe I will look into this a little bit more, because a lot of people are visual learners, and when they see proof, you can't really unjustify it because it's in front of you.
Yeah, and I think when they do have that intrigued moment, if it's strong enough, then they will find the research for themselves. Like we were also part of that conditioning too. We didn't know where protein came from when we first went vegan. We didn't know about soy. We fell for the soy thing because people were telling us this myth. So, but because our ethic was so strong, we were just like, let's find out. We then come to the root of the evidence, and we were like, plant protein comes from plants. Yeah. So this is ridiculous what they're saying about soy, and soy is our favorite thing. We have it every day.
Yeah.
So I think if you're strongly intrigued, you will find the information.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting point as well, because I guess as a vegan business, if you are aware of what objections a potential customer is going to have, and especially male customers as well, then you can make sure that you've kind of already addressed some of that content in the content you're putting out, in some of your marketing as well. And just picking up on that point where you said about, using different vegan bodybuilders to align with your brand and that. And I think especially if you are maybe a vegan nutrition brand, for instance, that's why they are looking to partner up with the vegan fitness influencers, people like yourself. Because they're then just disproving those arguments by saying, look, this is Mel and Steve who are vegan. They use our products. How do you like those apples?
Yeah. And it proves like Viva Life. The Johnny Wilkins recently done some bits and bobs with Viva Life. We're with Viva Life. I absolutely love Viva Life's brand and what they stand for. And by them using vegan athletes and vegan bodybuilders, it debunks it again. And if we can all do this as vegan businesses and actually have that evidence and proof, then we're all singing from the same hymn sheet, and we've all got the same resources to resort back to. And then, stronger together, the message would be... Yeah,
and I think this is why the documentary Game Changers really was a game changer for men.
Yeah.
The amount of guys who come up to us in the gym, and we always ask their vegan story, we have to. Most of them are because they saw Game Changers, and that started the ball rolling for them.
Yeah.
So I think that was massively great for the guys out there.
And again, seeing people like Patrick in the army, they're seeing all these guys, Paul from Hinge Herbivore. When you see it, I remember when we went vegan and I stopped crying on the sofa, and I thought, okay. And my first thought was, that's bodybuilding done. Okay, fine. That's cool. Like, I'm happy to just now be physically healthy, be physically fit, but if I can't keep my muscle, or I can't compete as a bodybuilder, no problem. And then when I did stick into YouTube, vegan bodybuilders, and I saw Niami and Patrick, all of a sudden I was like, there's hope. Like, hang on, like, it's not all over. Okay. And then you research it because it's important to you. And I think it's always like what Mel's saying is really important. Like, with veganism, we always say when you're on the street, there's why vegan, how vegan. When we know why vegan is because we're against animals being exploited in any walks of life, however which way, and we keep them as our focus as a victim, that's why we should be vegan. How we get protein, how we become a bodybuilder, how we do all these other things always comes second. And you will always find the answer if you focus on the why.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliantly put as well. So the next point in that Vegan Society's research briefing, the next point that it raised was that men are more likely than women to consider eating animals to be natural. And so they're more likely to try and justify that behaviour as well. And this is the lions, though, argument. Lions eat animals, so we should eat animals. And lions also poo in the middle of the savannah. So I guess you're against toilets too. So, do you see this yourself? Do you see that men are just more likely to try and justify eating meat? And it'd be quite interesting to see, which one of you two they actually try and justify it to the most.
I would say that's pretty equal, they say. I actually think that's quite a standard thing to say. Like,
it's one of the five, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the main five. And I don't think it matters who they're talking to. They always bring up lions. I even had T-Rex as well, which is a bit different.
Yeah.
And I think they kind of just spout things that they hear and they kind of kept that in the back of their head. And then when you say but do you do what lions do? Like, do you base your morality around what lions do? Like, they do a lot of other things that are terrible as well. And they are like, oh, no, just that point, just that one point. And then it quickly moves on, doesn't it? But I don't think it's men in particular that say that.
Yeah, I would say men say that more than females on outreach. Yeah, because I think that men have this perception of apex predator, hunter-gatherer, provider. We have this stand on my shoulders, I can carry the world, I'm a man, I can do this.
Maybe you get it more then, maybe you do.
I think that men carry this perception around, and then they perceive that hunting, killing, and being aligned with an apex predator, it raises that manly status. I think men typically strive to become alpha, and the more alpha they can appear. I don't believe they actually think it a lot of the time. I think a lot of the time it's just the water on the circuit board, and but a lot of the time you see them say it, and I almost see their eyes go, oh, I said the protein thing, or the lion thing. And I'm like, you said the lion thing, didn't you? And they almost wish they could just take that 5 seconds back. But I think it is just, it's conditioning, and we have this, I think we have a superiority complex and this apex alpha complex that we need to be able to debunk and adjust, and to say, hey, listen, what I always say is, okay, what out of these two scenarios sounds more alpha, more manly? Someone who takes a knife and attacks a defenseless, innocent animal, or someone who puts the defenseless, innocent animal behind them, stands in front of them and says, you're not coming to hurt this innocent animal? Because to me, that appeals to me as an alpha, protective, put the victim behind you and stand in front of the oppressor. To me, I find that strong. That's why the strong protect the weak is one of our slogans. And when put to a man from experience, that scenario, they go, yeah, because it enables them that alpha superior, it's natural to protect as well as it's natural to hunt. A lion would protect the pride. So you can still have your lion, though. Be a lion, but protect the pride. Don't go out hunting innocent animals when you don't need to.
Yeah.
I just wanted to break off for a second to ask, are you just following this podcast without being a member of Vegan Business Tribe? Because if you are, then let me tell you, you are missing out on about 80% of everything that goes on at Vegan Business Tribe, including incredible resources and a vibrant community of like-minded vegan business owners from around the world. Because as a member of Vegan Business Tribe, you'll gain access to hundreds of hours of online courses and guides and masterclasses in our Vegan Business Academy to help you grow your vegan business. You'll also get to attend our regular online networking meetups where you can promote your business and just forge those connections with fellow vegan business owners just like you. Plus, if you need more direct advice and assistance, you can join us on a live business clinic, or you can post a question in our community hub where all our other members, plus our vegan business experts, are waiting to help you out. And the best part, it's just £18.99 a month. And at the same time, you'll also be supporting the work that we do to champion the vegan business scene around the world. And just to add that we've now also recently introduced one-to-one business coaching and mentoring with myself or one of our vegan business experts. And that's available to a select number of our members. So if you're really looking to take your vegan business to the next level, then we've got you. Don't just lurk on the sidelines. There is a whole community of vegan businesses who want to get to know you and support you. Just head to veganbusinesstribe.com. Click on that big join button on the homepage, and I cannot wait to connect with you and discuss your vegan business or your next big idea. I think when you're talking about them about this apex predator idea, you can almost see them growing claws and fangs at the same time, can't you? It's that whole idea. But just bringing that business angle back into this, because I love that idea that this is just a way of sort of like reframing that view and reframing your marketing around that as well. And I've seen some vegan brands, people like Vegan Fried Chicken or VFC, they do that really well on social media. They actually get a lot of comedy out of showing the ridiculousness of these kind of comments. And they what do they call it? It's Cluckwit of the month. I had to say that very carefully. Yeah, the Cluckwit of the month they call it. And they even did a poster campaign with it around the London Underground, showing these ridiculous comments and the justifications that they get from, normally men, it has to be said, against their products. So the last point that the Vegan Society's research briefing made was this idea that actually a lot of men, and you've kind of just touched upon it there, they want to break away from a lot of the gender expectations that they see, a lot of these things as being quite toxic, especially what society's view is of masculinity. So actually going vegan, that might be seen as a way to distance yourself from these kind of negative messages. In fact, if I think back to, my 81-year-old mother, when I first went vegetarian, the first thing she said to me was that I'd always been awkward, which by that she meant that I've always acted in a way that society, I've never really acted in a way that society expected me to act. So might this actually be a better and more compassionate way to frame these conversations for people who actually want to break away from those kind of pressures?
I 100% agree. 100% agree. I think that we need to reframe and rethink how these things are put across and enable men to be able to feel comfortable enough to step away from the status quo and what they think they have to be, and to be able to say, I'm vegan because I'm compassionate. I'm vegan because I'm against seeing animals suffering in the way they are. I don't want to be part of that, And I think, for me personally, I always think that it's stronger to stand up for the victim. So I would always look at that in an admirable way anyway.
Yeah, don't need anything stronger than that. But
I think using it as a tool to say to guys, look, take the pressure off, like release the pressure of feeling like you have to be whatever condition has conformed us to be, and you can be vegan and still be manly. What even is
and
manly?
Also, if you think you're a manly man, what you don't need to do something to make yourself feel manlier. Like that. There was
a study done. They took a group of guys and they did some tests and measured their alphaisms, or whatever you like to call it, who was like the most alpha. And it worked. It actually, the results came back and said that the guys who would be more, I'm going to eat 2 steaks today, and the guys who actually perceived and put that out more actually come across the least alpha of the pack when it came to actually seeing who was the leader of that social circle. If that means,
I think it's maybe a bit more of an insecurity thing to do something to make you feel more manly because I eat meat. Whereas actually the ones like, if you're humble, I think it's they're less likely to care about things like that.
I love that whole idea about there being an alpha test as well. I mean, it's like who can get to the TV remote control the quickest? Some of these things are ridiculous once we say them out loud. And but I think, just carrying on that point, because that's again really interesting. I think over the last few years, especially, we're all becoming more comfortable that as a society, gender isn't binary. Like you and I were probably brought up to think it was. It is more of a spectrum, and some people might say that we're wrong to talk about masculinity and femininity in this kind of conversation, that they are now, quite outdated concepts. But even if you were to argue that there are still two biological sexes, then there's still a lot of room for manoeuvre within those sexes. So, for example, I can be a cis heterosexual man, but not want to act like Piers Morgan. Or I could be a gay guy, but not consider myself to be more feminine than someone who's straight. So in a way, using gender expectations to try and turn someone away from veganism, just tapping into what you were just saying there, that's actually going to backfire for a lot of people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think that we need to step away from this male, female, and then stigmas attached to it. The world has changed, and we've evolved, we've learned, we understand more, and like you say, there is a spectrum. So we haven't got to be opposite ends of it. You can be a blend and a mixture of all, and certainly being this, even if you was at that end of the spectrum and you wanted to be the most alpha apex man there was, like George of the Jungle, whatever you may be, you can still be vegan. You can still be vegan. And I think we need to let guys know, wherever you are on that spectrum, 1 to 100, veganism isn't weak. It isn't removing anything from your stature as a person, whether you're male or female. In fact, it's adding to it. For me, I think, well done you for actually being able to express that emotion and think, I'm going to change. It's not the norm. It's against the grain, but it's also against my morals, what I'm seeing. And I'm okay to stand up against the majority. I think that's a really strong trait. Like, whether you're male or female, I think it's a really amazing thing to do. And I think we should encourage it. We should break these norms and these stereotypes. And as you say, look at we've got a more fluid spectrum now within these sexes. So let's use that.
Yeah.
And Mel, what's your view on that from the female side?
Yes, I agree, because I think like we're all about like the strong protecting the weak, but actually, being vegan has made me become the strongest person I've ever been in my whole life, because I never wanted to cause like an issue. Like, if there was something going on, disagreements, I'd be like, oh, it's not worth it's fine. I'll just be here quiet. But now I never thought I'd ever have the strength to ever do the things I've been doing, like standing on stage speaking, going out on the streets doing activism, filming. Like, I've been feeling like so out of my depth, but I have the strength, that fire inside me to fight for the animals. I've never felt stronger. So I know we're talking about like masculinity, but actually I feel flipping masculine and epic now. Like, when you have that, I can't even explain the feeling. If you either have the feeling or you don't, you can do anything like in a strength for somebody else. And I think that's really amazing. I
think maybe guys are actually fearful of letting go of, if I don't eat meat or drink this, what am I going to lose? And if I don't conform and all my mates go out to have a curry and I say, can we go to the vegan curry house? Am I going to be ostracized from my friends group? Like, they look at things from a personal way in. How is it going to affect me and my social network? And that's really sad, because you shouldn't be fearful of showing your compassion, because that veganism at the end of the day is we're just trying to live a more compassionate life and be kinder to all. We shouldn't be fearful, whether you're female or male, to show your compassion. So I think the guys, we got to get the message out to guys that it's okay to let go.
Yeah.
You're not going to lose anything. In fact, you've just got more to gain. And when you do it, you will feel more strength, more alpha, more protective side of that apex spectrum that they're trying to find than the other side. Does that make sense? But that's what I would say. It
absolutely does. And again, these are brilliant things for vegan brands to be aware of as well. If they are trying to engage both male and females. And that point that Mel just made was really interesting, about how it makes you feel. Because one of the interesting points from this briefing document, one of their initial recommendations, they talk about how a lot of the high-profile vegan influencers at the moment are male, and those male influencers, they can be quite aggressive and confrontational, and that sometimes that might actually reinforce some of those narrow views of what masculinity is. Now, when I've watched your vegan muscle outreach videos, I mean, Steve, if I didn't know you, you could be quite intimidating, you know. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast instead of, you know, watching us on YouTube, Steve, you are built of pure muscle. You've got all these vegan tattoos, you know, down your neck and all that as well. So is that something that maybe you're conscious of too, that people are expecting you to you know, be coming over and maybe be aggressive and confrontational?
Absolutely. And that is one of the biggest things that I love, because on the outside, I can see how people may perceive the way I look or the image that may come with me. So that's another really cool thing. When I go up and I just smile, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. My name's Steve. What's happening? I'm here just fighting for animals. Like, I'm here just trying to make the world better. I'm trying to be part of the solution, not be part of the problem, and be really nice and really open. You see people will just go, wow, okay. And again, there's more water on the circuit board. Their brain's going mad, because, you know, people don't expect it. They expect me to come over, probably point, shout, scream, like use muscular size or whatever it may be to intimidate them to be a vegan. But when they get the complete opposite, it's like, like, and it's just to prove to people that, you know, you don't have to conform to all these rules. One of the things what I've always said with vegan muscle, you probably heard us say it in the past. When I was 16, I walked into a gym and I saw the biggest guy in the gym. He had black and white stripy trousers on. That's all I can remember, because I remember thinking Beetlejuice for some reason. And I walked straight over to him. I said, I want to look like you. Like, how do I get like you? And he told me who I needed to eat and who I needed to eat things from. And one thing for us with vegan muscle is just taking it from a bodybuilding perspective. If someone walks into a gym, the same way I did at 16, and looks across and sees the big guy with whatever they're doing, maybe they have vegan tattoos around their neck, they've got a vegan muscle jumper on, and they go, oh, that guy's vegan. Like, wow, okay. I want to be like you, but your top says vegan. How's that? And then someone turn around and then engage them in a nice way. It could do so much for the movement, and so much for animal liberation. And that's one of our main goals, is to break stereotypes, break norms, because, you know, they can be broken, and they're there to be broken, because the stereotypes that are there at the moment are keeping animals in gas chambers. They're keeping chicks in open blenders, and they're keeping animals in laboratories going through all sorts of tests. These stereotypes are directly responsible for animal suffering. So it's our job as vegans, it's our job as vegan business owners, and it's our job as activists to do everything we can to break stereotypes, look at ways we can bring people in, engage with as many people as we can. And one of the things Paul said from Hinch Herbivore, which I've always taken, he said, you've got to be appealing to the other side. You know, if a non-vegan looks across and sees a happy, laughing, joking vegan who's a triathlete, a marathon runner, or ultra runner, or whatever you may be, and they go, that guy looks really happy, really healthy, he's vegan. Do you know what? I want to be on that team, because actually I don't like animals being hurt. I want to be part of it. And it is so much more engaging. And you find guys will feel a relief to lose that, oh, I've got to behave a certain way. And it can be quite liberating for all, especially the animals at the end of it.
I love this idea that you're there as a tattooed bodybuilder, and you come over like a teddy bear when you're talking to people, and then you got Mel, you got Mel who's half your size, and she comes over and just starts kicking butt. I love that idea.
Yeah, she's the one who's aggressive. You're aggressive.
Do you want to speak at more events? Do you want to get invited onto podcasts like this one? Well, it's far easier to do that if you can say that you have written a book. So let me tell you about The Vegan Publisher. Their founder, Mitali, she is a best-selling business author herself, and Mitali and her team, they will lead you through that entire process of becoming a published author, transforming you into the thought leader of your industry. And writing a book, it isn't just a great marketing activity to get you more clients. Trust me, Being a published author, it will open up doors to opportunities that you never even knew existed. So, even if you think you don't have the time to write a book, or even if you don't know what you might write a book about, go take a look at theveganpublisher.com to find out more. If you are a UK vegan business, wouldn't it be better to have an accountant that shares your ethics? Well, vegan accountants have got over 30 years of experience, and they're a vegan founded company. And just to add, they're also our accountants at Vegan Business Tribe, because they just get us. They understand why we do what we do, and they make sure that we're doing it in the most tax efficient way possible. Keith and his team, they've been massive supporters of our mission at Vegan Business Tribe. So if you are an established UK business with a growth mindset and you want an accountant that is going to help you grow and shares your mission as well as saves you tax, then just go to veganaccountants.co.uk to find out more.
Yeah.
But just picking up on that point again, because this is a very important point, and it's one of the recommendations that came from the Vegan Society report as well. You know, if you are going to feature vegan men's stories and testimonials, it might actually be better not to feature some of those athletes and sports stars and vegan celebrities. Sometimes you are just better featuring those normal everyday vegan men, because they're just going to be, you know, much more relatable as well.
Yeah, 100%, because it's got to relate to the average person. And, you know, like the other day, funny enough, I walked in the gym the other day. We went to a gym at a different time, and I've got my vegan V tattooed in the back of my head. And this guy, you know, and he's a stereotype. He looked like a normal guy. So, you know, like, you know, he looked very similar to me, I would say. Maybe not as muscly and as handsome, but he looked like me. And he came over and he went, "Mate, I see your tattoo." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm vegan." He turned around and was like, "Me too."
Had the
I was
same
like,
tattoo.
wicked. I was like, cool. That's happened to us now 3 times in the last 4 months. Maybe less.
Less, like a month, I'd say.
Maybe
our
even a
t-shirt
couple of months.
we connect so much now. There's so many vegans in the gym we had no idea about until we started wearing a t-shirt.
And then they come over and speak. That's another really important thing, actually. Since we're in Vegan Muscle, vegans come and speak. "Where'd you get your top?" "I'm vegan." In that gym.
And like the gyms, like now, like their t-shirts are changing, so it's really cool. Like when we talk to people in the gym, they see all these different vegans in the gym as well, because like bodybuilders are actually maybe one of the stereotypes that heavily consume more animal products than the average person.
Yeah.
So we can change that like that. That would be amazing. And then the people who think, "Oh, you got to be strong and eat meat," will start looking at these bodybuilders going, "Well, they don't."
But they're also relating back to getting to your normal guy in the gym rather than your athlete. So we're like, cool, let's have a picture. Buy a vegan muscle jumper, tag us, and let us put that on our Instagram. Let us post that everywhere, because we want to show everybody that everybody can be vegan. Everybody can fight for animals and still have everything that they like. And it grows that community, and that's really important.
And he left actually wanting to go and do activism, which is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you what, that's actually a really important point, because again, as vegan businesses, we do reach for those stereotypes, both male and female stereotypes. Now, I've done it myself, you know, the woman doing yoga and eating a salad at the same time, the vegan guy powerlifting in the gym. But I think for most of us, you know, we're not being vegan to be more masculine or feminine. We just think that it's wrong to harm and turn sentient creatures into consumable products. So I think that's got to be part of it as well, that actually that masculine and feminine argument, that's only up until you reach that point of turning veganism.
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%, because actually everything falls away and doesn't matter, because it becomes about the victim. And that's why we always say the why and the how, because your focus has to be on that why. Whoever you are, whatever you do, we have to be focused on that victim. And when you get to that point, like you say, it all falls apart and none of it matters, because it's about not contributing to them animals being harmed. And then also taking that to the next level, and not just being not part of the problem, but how can you be part of the solution? What can you do? What is your legacy to say, yep, I saw what was going on, I went vegan, so I was then non-compliant, and then I did this to try and help the situation. I did this to try and help the animals. I wear my vegan muscle jumpers or T-shirts, or I wear a vegan message everywhere. And do you know what? I like drawing. I'm going to start a vegan business around drawing. Like, this is what I could do.
And if doesn't have any talent, you can still do it. Like, you've got the strength to do anything. You never know what you can truly do. Just the people who don't have talents like me. I'm yet to find mine.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, that's a conversation we've had so many times at Vegan Business Tribe as well. The whole reason that you have a vegan business in the first place. And when you look at vegan businesses, if you are a vegan business that just sells to other vegans, you've kind of missed that point of having a vegan business in the first place. This is our activism. We are wanting to move that vegan cause forward. So yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff to add in there. So this has been an absolutely, amazing and brilliant conversation. So I'm going to actually wrap us up by asking you for your top tips for all of this. So if you do have a vegan business and you want to embrace more vegan men, then what would Mel and Steve suggest for doing that?
So I would say, I think this whole meat man thing come from advertising with different people and things on TV, like constantly seeing it. So I think change the slogan, like the strong protect the weak, put that on your coffee or your adverts out there, like let them see, like, oh yeah, it's strong to protect these innocent baby animals than it is to actually carry on with the crowd and continue to oppress them. That's what I think the root of the problem is. So I think we switch it and go with that route.
I massively agree. Like you said, men have got this mindset for a reason. It's because of marketing. So we need to think, what did they do to market to guys to think this way? And how can we market to guys to change the way that they see it? And I think appealing to the fact that they can still be lions, though, but just in a protective sense, rather than in the sense where they can justify killing animals to eat them. So appeal to that, appeal to them points, appeal to that masculinity. Have your slogans, have your images, have your environments, like a gym, which is predominantly male. Something like, guys, bodybuilding weight section, go in there. Like, if you can get your products or whatever it may be into an environment where it's predominantly men, and market for an appeal to strength, or an appeal to a protector, or an appeal to an alpha, with whatever slogans you can think of.
Yeah, appeal to strength.
I think that you have a lot of guys willing to be open to change, because for them, they won't be losing that masculinity in their opinion. We know that they wouldn't lose their masculinity by switching over. But for them, I think that it would be a really good way of engaging them, to open their minds to look. And then, exactly as you just said a minute ago, once they look and once they see, it all falls away anyway, and no one really cares, because you just think, I've got the why. That's fine.
Absolutely perfect. And I think that's a brilliant place to leave it there as well. So I have been joined by my co-host for this episode, Mel and Steve from vegan gymwear brand Vegan Muscle. And you can find them at veganmusclegymwear.com, where you can buy your vegan gym statement wear, and you might unearth some other vegans in your gym. Do go check them out. Yeah. And I think at the moment you deliver to both the UK and the US. Is that right?
Yeah, UK and USA at the moment.
Absolutely fantastic. But also do go check out their Vegan Muscle Outreach YouTube channel, where they take to the streets. And is there any other way that people can support the work you do?
Yeah, so we've got our Patreon account as well. So for people who want to support us, if you go to our Vegan Muscle Outreach channel on YouTube, there's a link there to our Patreon. So that's just started up. That any sort of money that gets donated through that way will all be put into our activism, street activism, improving what we can do for the animals. So that's another good way. Again, following on Instagram. And if you are on the YouTube channel, as many comments, likes and shares as possible really to grow helps, it would be really, really helpful too.
Absolutely brilliant. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation, and I'm absolutely sure that we will catch up again soon.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're back again in the studio. And what a brilliant conversation that was. And I love talking about topics like this because, as I always say, if you have a vegan business, but you're just talking to vegans, then you've kind of missed the point of having a vegan business in the first place. So you need to know what barriers non-vegans are going to have to what you sell. So Mel and Steve there, who sell their gym wear brand primarily to vegans, they're going out on the streets and they're engaging with people who are not yet vegan as a way of building their vegan brand. But do let me know your own thoughts about what we've spoken about today. So either email me on hello@veganbusinesstribe.com or leave your comments under the video if you're watching us on YouTube. Because if, like me, you view your vegan business as your activism, then we need to break down those barriers that we've talked about today. And hopefully this conversation has given you a starting point to do that. So that just leaves me to say thank you to our wonderful podcast sponsors who are Mindful Wealth, who will help you put your money where your heart is, Mad or Make a Difference Promotions, who will get your vegan business in the news, The Vegan Publisher, who will transform you into the thought leader in your industry, and finally, Keith Lesser and his amazing team at Vegan Accountants here in the UK, who is the accountancy firm that shares your vegan ethics. So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you can, please do give us a like or a thumbs up or leave a comment with your thoughts or subscribe to our channel on YouTube to see the video version of this podcast. And do go check out the Vegan Business Academy on veganbusinesstribe.com for more great help and support. And I will see you on the next one.